So the US government has kicked the can down the road again. They are trapped like rats and they know it. And we have called this outcome a few days ago that Congress was going to capitulate. We believe they didn't have the guts to do a complete shutdown, and either they will pass the spending bill or the stopgap measure. And this is going to destroy the dollar's buying power further. But the unexpected really happened. What we didn't account for was elements in the government refusing to give Zelensky any more money. Well, at least for the next 45 days, right? Until the next debate happens again. And in our lead story today, Congress averts US government shutdown hours before deadline. The legislation does not include billions in new assistance for Ukraine. Let that sink in. President Biden has signed the bill, so the US government shutdown threat has officially ended for a while. It's back to business as usual. Endless deficit spending once again continues. Now, I want to be clear. I personally believe that Ukraine will get their money sooner or later. And this is just a speed bump. We have Congress reassuring Zelensky that everything would be fine. We are seeing the sunk cost fallacy at work. Too much has been given, and too much has been risked for America to just give up now. As we speak, the president and elements in Congress are fighting hard to give Ukraine as much financial support as they need. According to Senator Amy Klobuchar, uninterrupted aid, that's going to be our number one goal, and that's what we concluded in that room. So if you think the conflict is going to end, guys, and the West will just pull away support, I honestly don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. The fighting will likely drag on for many months or even years to come. And this will put an immense inflationary strain not just on the United States but the entire world as well. We can expect more sanctions, more defense spending, and more energy weaponization to come. The worst is yet to come. And let's talk about this stopgap bill for a bit. There was a reason why we went in with strong conviction saying that they won't shut down the whole government. Because if they did, the entire US economy would grind to a halt. To pass the bill, the House of Representatives voted 335 to 91. There were three times more yeses than noes. The Senate also voted 88 to 9. That's 10 times more votes that they want the bill to be passed. That's a huge margin that tells us something. The majority of lawmakers on Capitol Hill passed the bill for a reason. And it's because the entire US economy runs on deficit spending. The dollars have to keep flowing and they can't rely on the private sector to save the economy. Remember that over 35% of GDP in 2022 came from government spending. And this includes all the wages and all the salaries of government employees, right? If they stop spending money today, the entire economy would literally freeze up. And according to Goldman Sachs, they actually quantified the damage a shutdown would do to the US economy. Each week the government is shut down, 0.2% will be subtracted from GDP growth. So a shutdown for a month will lead to almost a 1% drop in GDP, and just think about it. Do you really think the US government will want to risk their economy moving towards a recession? Can they truly risk collapsing the economy now? And that is just the direct GDP consequences of a shutdown. That is simply the spending cut away from the economy. We haven't even considered the other blowback effects, the domino effect, and understand what's inside this stopgap bill. They are not going to cut any spending. The government is still going to get full funding and operate until November the 16th. In fact, this amount is going to increase by $16 billion from the federal disaster assistance. So what we know is very disturbing, right? This is going to mean more money is going to the government and the allocation of funds is not always ideal. There'll be more wastage. There'll be more debt piled onto the system. And I think if you have been on this channel long enough, you know the consequences of endless deficit spending. You continually stack up a huge debt burden that will literally implode if you stop spending. And that, oh my god, is the big irony of this whole mess. You quickly realize why the US government might be trapped in a doom loop of endless deficit spending. And I'm going to put things very simply. If the US government dares to stop deficit spending from a government shutdown, this will implode two things. It will destroy the stock market and it will collapse the bond market as well. Now, the stock market is easy to understand, right? The S&P 500 fell by 5% over the past 2 weeks because there was this big fear that the government spending would simply stop. Government employees just won't have any money to spend, and this will trickle down to businesses all over the country. But many people don't really understand the bond market connection, and this is by far the biggest threat a shutdown could ever impose. And by now, even a blind monkey knows the horrible situation America is facing. US treasuries are experiencing a horrible sell off, and this is very bad news. The Federal Reserve has signaled that rates are going to go higher, they're going to go up, and investors are terrified of their bond values crashing to hell. And this is going to push up bond yields and push the US economy further into debt. Yields on a 30-year treasury is hitting well towards 5%, and that's near 2010 levels. Now, if a government shutdown happens, what does this mean for the bond markets? Well, since the government is funded by deficit spending, this would mean no new bonds are issued. Understand this. You will stop borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. The entire musical chairs comes to a stop, or at least it slows dangerously down. Even if the US government doesn't get a downgrade by ratings agency like Fitch or Moody's, it will cause bond yields to fly up. And this will add fear into the markets that will simply roil everyone up. We will see another massive sell-off in the treasury markets as well as the stock markets most probably, because investors will be unsure if the US government, the US economy can truly pay back their debt. And even if the Federal Reserve steps in to buy all those bonds and start printing money, it will debase the US dollar even further. So all the holders of dollars gets their purchasing power, their buying power debased. And what's really the point? And that's why we even had Janet Yellen freaking out and warning about the dangers of a shutdown. A government shutdown would mean the destruction of trust. It throws the creditworthiness of the United States government into doubt. And Yellen knows the obvious that a government shutdown adds to the risk of recession. I would say it almost guarantees it because of the bond market breaking that will send rates across the board soaring. Mortgages will go up, credit card debt will be unsustainable, and businesses won't be crazy enough to borrow money in this kind of environment, right? And let's not forget the banks will literally claw back their credit, they'll claw back their lending as well. If you want to borrow money, sure. Business and personal loans will now be at double digit rates, not 8%, not 9%, maybe 10, 15, or even 20%. And this will implode the consumer economy. That's why the shutdown debacle was pure grandstanding, is the ultimate kabuki theater for the world. But the final destination has always been pumping more money into the system. And that's why in 40 days or so, this process is going to be repeated and the end goal will probably be the same. They will come to an agreement, and this time there's a good chance aid will be provided to Ukraine. And here's what President Biden said: we cannot, under any circumstances, allow American support for Ukraine to be interrupted. In fact, Biden said McCarthy has committed to a separate Ukraine aid package, so something might be brewing in the works. And I'm not sure if you saw this, but there's a new ad campaign from the Republicans to actually maintain financial support for Ukraine. And it's really wow, you should really take some time and go and watch it, right? So despite various senators like Ron Paul calling for money to stop, there's still strong bipartisan support for giving Zelensky his money. We have to realize this. Let's recall what Biden wants to give Ukraine. So far, $113 billion has been approved by Congress, and the president wants to bump it up by another $24 billion. According to Chuck Schumer, if Ukraine doesn't get their aid, they will lose the war. And there might actually be some truth to that. If America stops contributing to the war effort, the rest of the EU will likely drop their aid as well. They'll pull away their money because the majority of money is actually coming from the United States. The EU can't contribute much. Countries like Germany are already in a horrible recession, and understand Germany is actually Europe's biggest economy. It's the powerhouse of the EU. And in the latest EU survey, total support for Ukraine has fallen from 67% to just 48%. Just process that number. Support has now fallen under 50%. But if you look towards the east, it's a whole different situation. China is going to keep supporting Russia, and Russia is going to keep their oil flowing to the global markets. The revenue coming in isn't going to stop. And consider what America is admitting to the world if they pull support for Ukraine now. They will be admitting that their economy is in horrible shape and their debt is consequential. They will also be hinting that all their sanctions and oil price caps on Russia haven't been effective in ending the conflict, but they will also be waving a big white flag. they will be telling the world that $113 billion already committed has been thrown into a literal black hole. And I think it's very important we realize that before McCarthy took out the Ukraine funding portion from the defense bill, it actually passed the House. Ukraine almost received $300 million in new aid. Even with over half the Republicans voting against the additional funding, the Democrats had the ability to force it through. There's still enough bipartisan support, so my guess is that America will double down and continue funding Ukraine until the bitter end, and this sunk cost fallacy will be their undoing. So let's be realistic here. The war is likely going to continue, and this is simply a speed bump. Now, I personally believe the money should be used for more productive stuff like securing the borders, for example, but that isn't going to happen. The White House has mentioned how Biden would veto any House bill on spending reductions and border security, and this sets up a really dangerous fiscal future for the United States. And whether you're an American or just an international investor, right? We have to be aware. Be aware that the end game is going to be higher inflation. Biden has to keep the US economy afloat no matter what, at least from now until the end of the 2024 elections. He needs to make Bidenomics work, and we all know what is the true driver of Bidenomics, which is endless deficit spending. And unless America really has the guts to embrace a recession and maybe even a depression, and they have to also accept financially surrendering to Russia, I really don't see a possibility for a long-term government shutdown. Now, will Ukraine get their $24 billion? Will Zelensky get his full sum? I don't think so, but I do believe he will get something to kick the can down the road, probably $1 billion or two. Deficit spending is not a bug, guys. It is now a feature of the US financial system. The bond market, the stock market, and literally the entire US economy is tied to it. And that's why Yellen is calling it dangerous and unnecessary, because government spending is becoming the true driver of the US economy. And the moment you turn that off, you risk imploding the entire financial system. America is literally trapped, and there's no escaping this financial train wreck. They'll keep kicking the can down the road until there's no more road left. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this shutdown just theater? And will Ukraine get their money? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.